This land has been called Canaan, the Holy Land, Judea, Syria, Palestina, and Jund Philastin, each name a chapter in its long story. But for those who have lived here for centuries, its most cherished name is Philastin or Palestine, a name that speaks of belonging and resilience. The soul of Palestine is not found in monuments, but in the lives of its people. The farmer tending ancient olive trees, the poet in Gaza writing of longing, the grandmother in exile holding a key to a lost home. These voices form a mosaic of identity, bound by a deep connection to the land. For centuries, Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived side by side, their lives intertwined in cities and villages, their faiths coexisting in daily life. This peace was built on mutual respect and shared customs, not on political agreements. The conflicts that later engulfed the land were not born from ancient faiths, but from modern ambitions that divided what history had joined. The people, Muslim, Christian, or Jew, were caught in storms not of their making, their lives shaped by distant powers. To understand Palestine, we must listen to these stories, see the humanity behind the headlines, and recognize a people whose spirit endures. This is not just a land of many names, but a single, unbreakable soul. For 4 centuries, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, a time of relative stability, where life revolved around the land and seasons. Muslim communities, Christian communities, and Jewish communities lived side by side in cities like Jerusalem and Acre, their lives and economies intertwined. The Ottoman millet system allowed each group to govern its own affairs, preserving distinct identities within a shared civic space. Change arrived in the late Ottoman period. European influence grew, new schools and hospitals appeared, and a modern Arab cultural awakening began. Newspapers and literary societies in Jaffa and Haifa fostered a sense of shared Arab identity, distinct from Ottoman rule. But as the empire weakened, European colonial ambitions and the rise of Zionism began to threaten this delicate coexistence. Zionism, a new political movement, sought to transform the land, not coexist with its native population. The seeds of future conflict were sown, as outside forces set the stage for division. The tapestry of coexistence was about to unravel. World War I ended Ottoman rule and brought British control to Palestine, dashing hopes for Arab independence. The British mandate, shaped by the Balfour Declaration, promised a Jewish national home while ignoring the Arab majority. British policies enabled mass Jewish immigration and land purchases, often displacing Palestinian farmers. Families who had farmed for generations were evicted, their land sold by absentee landlords. Resistance grew, culminating in the Great Arab Revolt of 1936–39, a united uprising crushed by brutal British force. By the end, Palestinian society was shattered, its leadership exiled or imprisoned. The British empowered one community over another, transforming neighbors into rivals. When Britain handed the problem to the United Nations in 1947, the land was deeply divided and on the brink of catastrophe. The promise of independence was broken, and the fate of Palestine was sealed by forces far beyond its people's control. The stage was set for a tragedy that would define generations. 1948. The Nakba, or catastrophe, marks the loss of Palestine for hundreds of thousands. The UN partition plan, allocating most of the land to a Jewish state, was rejected by Palestinians who saw their homeland given away without consent. War erupted, and Zionist militias launched campaigns that emptied towns and villages, often through terror and violence. Massacres like Deir Yassin spread panic, driving over 750,000 Palestinians into exile. By 1949, Israel controlled 78% of historic Palestine. More than 400 Palestinian villages were erased. The Nakba was not just expulsion, but the destruction of a society and the beginning of statelessness. Those who remained became present absentees, stripped of property and rights under military rule. The Nakba is an ongoing process, dispossession, erasure, and a system designed to prevent return. It is the foundational trauma from which all Palestinian history unfolds. The memory of the Nakba endures in every refugee camp and every longing for home. 1967 brought the Nakba or setback as Israel occupied the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. Hundreds of thousands more Palestinians were displaced. Those who remained faced a new reality: military occupation. Israel annexed East Jerusalem and began building settlements, fragmenting Palestinian land and resources. Life under occupation meant daily restrictions, permits for travel, farming, even planting trees. Checkpoints and roadblocks turned simple journeys into ordeals. A web of military orders controlled every aspect of life. Two legal systems emerged. Israeli settlers enjoyed civil rights, while Palestinians lived under military law. This system, labeled apartheid by many human rights groups, entrenched dispossession and inequality. The occupation is not temporary. It is a permanent structure of control. For Palestinians, survival became an act of resistance. By the late 1980s, 2 decades of occupation led to the First Intifada, a mass, grassroots uprising for freedom. Palestinians used civil disobedience strikes and boycotts, confronting military power with stones and determination. Israel responded with overwhelming force, mass arrests, live ammunition, and collective punishment. The Intifada shattered the illusion of a benign occupation and forced the world to confront the Palestinian demand for self-determination. Hopes rose with the Oslo Accords, but settlement expansion and unresolved core issues dashed them. The Second Intifada erupted in 2000, far more violent and devastating, ending with Israel's separation wall and the blockade of Gaza. Gaza became an isolated, besieged enclave, its people enduring repeated assaults and economic collapse. The story of the Intifadas is one of failed hopes and deepening fragmentation. The cry for freedom persists even as the path to liberation grows more difficult. The struggle continues, shaped by resilience and the longing for justice. Despite decades of loss, the Palestinian spirit endures in daily acts of resilience. Farmers replant uprooted olive trees, children play in refugee camps, students in Gaza study by candlelight, dreaming of a better future. Culture is resistance. Poetry, film, embroidery, and dance keep memory and identity alive. Mahmoud Darwish's words and Palestinian cinema give voice to longing and hope. A global solidarity movement has emerged, calling for rights and justice through boycotts and advocacy. Human rights organizations now recognize the reality of apartheid and structural oppression. The struggle is reframed not as a conflict between equals, but as a fight for dignity and freedom. The political future is uncertain, but hope persists in the steadfastness, sumud, of the people. The story of Palestine is not over. It is a testament to endurance and the belief that justice will come. In every act of survival, the soul of Palestine lives on.